My lords, ladies and gentlemen, when the splendid literary director of the Man Booker Prize, Ian Truin, asked me if I would chair the judges this year, I was extremely thrilled. I mean, not just the normal sort of thrill, but, you know, I'd become used to being a man with an enormous political future behind me. Which I thought, by the way, until the other day was a fair description of Peter Mandelson, so be warned. No, I am one of Britain's former future Prime Ministers, and quite a lot of former future Prime Ministers now. We've recently formed ourselves into a little club of former future Prime Ministers. I'm very pleased to say that during the Labour Party conference we had the great pleasure of welcoming David Miliband as a new member. Very popular new appointment. It's certainly fantastic to be involved in this wonderful party here this evening. It's a wonderful celebration of literature, wonderful celebration full stop, and the way the economy is right now, this is likely to be the most fun you have for the next 10 years, so please make the most of it. No, it has been not only a privilege but a great pleasure to be one of the judges on the Man Booker Prize this year. A lot of people have been asking me, you know, was it a great burden, all those books that you had to read? It was not, and I think that is because the books we had to read this year were on the whole so very good, and I think all the judges have derived the most enormous amount of pleasure from the books that we've been set to read, and to be given then the responsibility of making a judgment has been an extra honour and obviously an enormous responsibility. And then the other thing is that I know that it's normal for the media to report the Man Booker Prize largely in terms of the rows that there have been. The most common question I'm asked is, you know, how much blood was there on the floor? And whilst I hate to disappoint the media, one of the joys of this year is that the judges have worked together so very harmoniously. If I can just give you a little scene from today's meeting, because we met at lunchtime, I should say that there has been the most intimate connection between decision-making and eating and drinking on this panel of judges. But if I give you a scene from our lunch today where we met to decide on today's winner, one of the judges, James Hennage, was presenting one of the books to the rest of us. We had this rather formal process by which the books were presented so they could be discussed. And he mentioned a death scene which occurs in one of the books. And as James started to talk about this death scene, he began to cry, to wipe away tears from his eyes. The memory of this death scene, without even reading it again, was sufficient to drive him to tears. That set me off. I was then wiping tears from my own eyes. And then Hardeep Singh Kohli began to blub in a fairly considerable way. Only the two women judges, Louise Doughty and Alex Clark, remained firm during that period. But I think that is a testimony to two things, really. The quality of the books that we've been dealing with, that the mere memory of a scene could provoke that sort of reaction, and the way that we've come to work together, that we weren't ashamed to show our emotion to each other in that situation. This prize obviously is an enormously prestigious one, and it has a wonderful history. And I'd just like to say that it was largely the inspiration of one Tom Mashler. And since we are here celebrating 40 years of the Man Booker, Tom Mashler is here in our midst this evening, and he's extremely welcome. So rather extraordinary things began to happen during the process of trying to choose a winner. We nominated to each other by email what we thought might go on to the long list, and then we repeated the process, nominating to each other what we thought might go on the short list. That was a kind of secret ballot. We didn't know until all the votes were in what the votes had been. And we found an extraordinary degree of unanimity in our choices for the long list and our choices for the short list. And that's very interesting too. We come from very different backgrounds. And people keep saying, well, what are your criteria? Well, we didn't have any criteria. And I say the only criterion really was, you know, did the book that you were reading knock your socks off? And, you know, there were books on the list that knocked your socks off. And we were very pleased to put 6 of those onto the shortlist. It struck us, we were asked to read 115 books, I think, this year. And we were 5 judges. And that meant more than 500 volumes. And it struck us that we were consuming an awful lot of paper and therefore an awful lot of forest. So as an innovation this year, it's been decided that we will plant 13 trees. That represents the... Yeah, it's not that big an achievement, planting 13 trees. But the idea is that it should begin a process going forward into the future, where maybe each year the Man Booker judges might wish to plant 13 trees or 12 trees representing the long list, whether it's 12 or 13 in that particular year. And there's a forest being developed in Hertfordshire, and that's where our trees are going to be planted, and we're rather looking forward to getting together for a little ceremony to plant those trees in the spring. And it may well be that food and drink will be involved again at that time. I should say that Hardeep Singh Kohli is the most extraordinarily brilliant chef, and we've enjoyed 2 meals thanks to him. Now, it did strike us when we had drawn up our shortlist that the characteristic that really united a fairly diverse bunch of books was that they were extraordinarily readable. And having discovered that, we thought we ought to make a virtue of that. We ought actually to say, these books are readable, these books are page-turners, these books are exciting, these books are very engaging. It's been rather amusing to me, I don't know whether you know, but on the Today programme, they had a little spot every morning featuring the shortlisted authors, and John Humphreys, who's a well-known presenter, but of a somewhat sceptical frame of mind, every morning has sort of spat out the idea that we might this year have chosen readable books. I don't quite know where the Man Booker developed some sort of reputation for nominating unreadable books. I have no idea whatsoever whether that reputation is justified. But certainly I would say this year there's no justification for it at all. These books are wonderful examples, all 6 of them, of really vivid storytelling. And we are pleased that this year we can really celebrate, if not a revival, certainly a wonderful example of vivid storytelling in 6 different books. And I would say that I think pretentiousness does not enter into any one of these books. I think that is a very strong characteristic which applies to all of them.